Okay, so we are going through the story of Jesus being tempted by the devil in the desert. Now, here's something important to understand. The devil's temptations are rooted in the desire to play God. The devil's temptations are rooted in the desire to play God. And the devil's temptations have worked on everyone since Adam. The devil's temptations have worked on everyone except for Jesus Christ. So we're looking at Matthew chapter 4, and it's an incredibly important moment. The experience of the one person who was not fooled by the devil, because he was the only one, because he was the only one who came from heaven. He would succeed where everyone else failed. Here's what you have to understand. Satan wants to destroy your life, but he does it with the power of pleasure. Satan uses the power of pleasure to destroy your life. Satan tempts you with sinful pleasures. Sinful pleasures. Sinful pleasures will suck the life out of you. Sinful pleasures will steal your strength. Sinful pleasures will steal your light. Sinful pleasures will steal your light. Sinful pleasures will steal the light that makes you function the way God made you to function. So sinful pleasures will darken your senses. And when your senses are darkened, you can't trust your senses. Your senses are darkened. Your awareness is darkened. When your senses are darkened, you can't trust your senses. You can't trust your mind. You're practically blind. And Jesus knew all too well, you are spiritually blind. And Jesus knew all too well the spiritual blindness that God's people and all people suffered because they were misled. Because they were misled by the short-lived pleasures of sin, by the short-lived pleasures of the devil's temptations. Jesus knew all too well the darkness, the inner spiritual blindness people suffered because they were misled by the devil's temptations. Jesus was all too aware of the darkness people suffered from Adam to everyone else. And he knew the devil's plans too well. He wasn't even going to think about walking down the road every other sinner walked down because they were misled by Satan. This is the first person who was not misled by Satan. Jesus was the first person on earth who was never misled by Satan. And we see that clearly in Matthew chapter 4. In Matthew chapter 4, we see someone completely committed to following God's heart, completely committed to seeking God, completely committed to seeking God's thoughts, completely committed to seeking God's heart. While Jesus was on earth, he had a human body, but he had a heart from heaven. A heart from heaven has no hunger for anything offered by the devil. We've always been defeated by the devil. The devil's always fooled us. And the issue is we needed help. We need help. God knew we needed help. And specifically, we needed help. We needed help from someone who was from heaven. We needed help from someone who was from heaven. And there was only one person who came from heaven. The one and only Son of God. And Jesus Christ, God's one and only Son, the only one who came from heaven. He would succeed where everyone else failed. He would not be fooled by the devil because he was far too aware. Because he was far too aware of God's truth. He was fully aware. He was fully aware of God's truth. He was fully aware of God's love. And by being fully consumed by God's truth, by being fully consumed by God's love, He had no desire for anything offered by the devil. Count yourselves dead to sin, but alive to God in Christ Jesus. Therefore, do not let sin reign in your mortal bodies, so that you obey its evil desires. Do not offer any part of yourself to sin as an instrument of wickedness, but rather offer yourselves to God as those who have been brought from death to life, and offer every part of yourself to him as an instrument of righteousness. Man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. When you live on every word that comes from the mouth of God, you will be able to offer every part of yourself to him as an instrument of righteousness. You will be able to offer every part of yourself to him as an instrument of righteousness.